So Richard and his wife Serena run a design-led manufacturing company specialising in silverware and jewellery. They both studied at the Royal College of Art and Camberwell School of Arts, respectively. That must mean Richard at the RCA. And established their own workshops, which they subsequently amalgamated in 1993. Richard has designed for international clients and institutions, names like Formula One, Rolls-Royce, Lambeth Palace, trip off the tongue. And he is in the Goldsmiths Company collection and the Silver Trust for 10 Downing Street. He's been the recipient of numerous awards and honours, so I won't list them now, but just hand straight over to Richard. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending. I think it's going to be quite an exciting day. Gordon's asked me to cover off the Goldsmiths Centre Company, the bursaries and so on that they offer, but I thought it might be quite interesting to do it from my perspective, because I've of course been a recipient of many of these things. Perhaps we can start with the, I'd like to just give a little bit more on my background. You can see a photo up here. This is Lewis Hamilton in the champagne shower, winning the Austin, Texas Grand Prix, but he also happened to win the World Championship, so he was particularly happy that day, as you can see, and that's one of the trophies I designed for Formula One, which is actually a multimedia thing with silver, aluminium, acrylics and acetals in it. And this particular shot, I was kneeling down, and you can see that champagne just heading in my direction. So about a millisecond later I was soaked, and then I got stampeded by the world press and ended up spread-eagled on the floor. So it can be fun, but it can be quite dangerous too. Just going on from that, the reason I've got this photo up here is because many years ago, 30 years ago, I was put forward by the Goldsmiths Company to design a trophy. Bernie Ecclestone wanted a young silversmith to design a trophy for him. So 6 of us were put forward and I got the job. So that trophy still gets awarded today at the end of the year. Bernie said, "Are you busy?" And I said, "Yeah, I am now." And he then went on to say, "When can you get it done?" And so I said, "Well, probably a week on Friday." This was on a Monday. He said, "I'll leave for South Africa on Thursday." I said, "See you Wednesday night." So I stayed up for 2 nights, scrabbling away and so on and so forth. Went to see him on the Wednesday. We got down on the floor, put all the designs out, and we were saying this bit, that bit, and eventually, fine, he went with it. So I was absolutely over the moon. It was one of my first major commissions I'd had after leaving college. And as I was leaving, he said, "Well, are you busy?" And I said, "Well, yes, I am now. It's great." And he said, "Well, do you want to do the TV trophy as well?" I said, "Okay." So I'll see it when I come back on Monday. So that was my learning curve, I suppose. It's a completely different thing from the college life. Very important that one responds. And I think that was something I was taught when I took my year out between Middlesex and the Royal College of Art. One of the things I will say about my education, of course, I was in those halcyon days where we had so many staff, it was untrue, just ridiculous numbers. We had fantastic technicians, skilled silversmiths, we had internationally known designers at the colleges, and the materials and equipment second to none. Certainly with the materials, we were given almost a free hand with them. And of course, that doesn't exist today, so it's quite a different world out there. So spoilt, yes, and I'm glad I really was, and it's fantastic. Anyway, going on, Goldsmiths Fair. The Goldsmiths Company does a huge amount of things for the industry. I'd like to start with Goldsmiths Fair. I was one of the first people that showed in the exhibition when it first started over 30 years ago. And indeed, I think I did about 25 years before I retired from the fair, mainly because I got so busy with all my commission work, which is always a wonderful thing to have happen. But I do miss it enormously. But my wife Serena often features there, so I can catch up with old friends. But it was a huge help, and that went from 1 week, and now we have 2 weeks, of course. So there's 150 silversmiths and jewellers each year that are able to show to the public over a 2-week period. But better still, for the young graduates, we have 10 places that are funded by the company, so it helps them up on the ladder. And indeed, there's a £1,500 bursary that goes alongside that, and one-to-one mentoring. So that was something that I didn't have all those years ago. So that's the Goldsmiths Fair, and of course that's going from strength to strength. The PR, the advertising, the marketing seems to be getting better every year. And of course the turnover is quite phenomenal, stretching into several millions. I'd like to go on to the curatorial department now. There's some other things that are happening there. So this is from the Goldsmiths Company side. We have master craftsman internships, whereby this is a great thing because it means people like me can go off to people like Angela or Rowney and go and learn how they make their work. You can have a week with them, and I think that's a fantastic thing. So, rather than it just being for graduates, it just allows those people that are more professionally involved to actually just extend their existing skill bases. And it's a constant learning curve, as we all know, as practicing designer makers and silversmiths. So I think that's a wonderful opportunity, and it is also extended to selected students. So we're not negating them at all, but nevertheless, it's a great opportunity for people to extend their craft skills and understanding of our trade. And there's also still a retention of the small student bullion grant. That's just £400, but nevertheless, that gives you over a kilo of silver and certainly a few grams of gold. So that's an extremely valuable resource for students that are struggling on these ridiculous fees that they have to pay these days. I would note that years ago, I think we had a competition which ran for about 20 years where students would win a prize and they could make a piece of silver, and that was then awarded to a local museum. Sadly, that's no longer, and the reason that was dropped is that the number of courses offering silversmithing had reduced so dramatically, and I think we were down to about half a dozen. So that just shows how the changing nature of education has had on our skill and our trade, so to speak. So quite shocking, really, and again, that supports perhaps the government not supporting us in the way that one would hope, and certainly with the apprentices. Moving on to the Goldsmiths Centre, we have the apprenticeship programme, which we've covered off. 16, 19-year-olds. We have 10 apprentices a year. Sadly, usually only one of those apprentices is a silversmith. And most of those companies that are able to take on apprentices, I think we fight over it, don't we, Grant? And a few others, Andrew, so to speak. It would be great to see a few more coming through. But of course, then it's really difficult for them to find work. Perhaps, some of the atelier silversmiths or the individuals, it would be very difficult for them to take on. So maybe that's an area we could look at and discuss, and it was something that Peter touched on very briefly, relating to how perhaps they could be almost like journeymen, that sort of thing. So, there are things that are still evolving out of the centre, and we're on a learning curve, and only 4 years into it, and going remarkably strong, I might add. There's a setting out programme here that's held here. This is hugely popular, and this is something that I think you referred to about how you felt that your BA let you down to a degree with the skill sets as opposed to some of the things that we can offer here. I tend to agree with Angela that you will find that's a completely different thing to the apprentice programme, and you will have a different set of skills which will come to the fore. You've just got to survive until you can make a living from it, I suppose. But I've been there. When I started off, I taught for 2 days a week at Middlesex, then I ended up running the first year course there for 7 years. I was a part-time tutor, and then I decided to jump ship because I'd sort of built the business up to a degree, and felt that would be a good opportunity really to concentrate on my own work, and then I just did visiting lecturing after that. So there was no great source of income. So you can do it. It's not the easiest. You have to be really thick-skinned, I think. But yes, we have the Getting Started, for example. So we run that in January. So that'll be next year now. And we have 30 students coming from colleges. Fantastic. I mean, it's always a sellout. We don't sell places, by the way. It's free. And I also believe there are grants available for those coming. Yeah, it's free man. But it's a fantastic thing to do, and indeed I was one of the recipients of that when I first started out, and I think I went on the very first one. It was slightly different. It was very much business orientated, and perhaps I should have taken more notice because I'm still not a millionaire. Nobody told me that bit. So that's still running. This is over 30 years ago, and it's a great success story, and I think it's a wonderful thing for students to be able to embark on it. It's a shame that perhaps more can't participate. We have a summer school here as well, where we can have up to 16 students coming, again free, for 1 week to learn silversmithing or jewellery, and it's an intense course, and this is something that perhaps you'd be very interested in, and that would sort of expand your making skills. But hey, you've got design skills, that's the most important thing. Again, that's a free course, and is usually snapped up within, 20 minutes of it going online? Does the website crash?
Of course it doesn't crash.
But again, it's only 16 people, so 8 for silversmithing and 8. So it's a reflection of how large our industry is. It's minute. But when you think what we do, we're working globally, and not a lot of people know that. And I think it is time that we sort of wave the flag a bit more. Thanks, Liz. We have starter studios here. As well, of course. So that would enable jewellers and silversmiths to come into the centre, and they will have up to 3 years. It's subsidised, so it gives them leg up, and there's a bit of mentoring that goes on, I believe. There's a little bit of give back. They have to help with the apprentices and so on and so forth. So it's a great way of integrating people starting their business, and of course there are businesses within the centre which we can turn to for assistance and so on and so forth. So there's a great crossover here. It's like a family. And then, of course, Peter also mentioned the technical portal. That's a really important thing, and I'm not sure it gets used enough, actually. It's a fantastic resource. It can give you all sorts of information, and if we don't know it, I'm sure we can find somebody that does. Another area is the library. The library started off my career with Formula One. That's where it first came from, this commission. So that's another great resource. Make sure that slides and so on are sent in to the librarian, either in digital form or as slides. And then there's a great sort of historical element to that resource. And then finally, the Modern Plate Committee. This dark committee sits in the background, and what they do is they look at you from a distance. And if you're lucky enough, you get the magic wand, and they say, "Oh, we quite like your work. We'd quite like to commission you for X, Y, Z." And again, I was really fortunate to be a recipient of 3 or 4 now major major pieces of work which are now in the collection. So, funnily enough, it's one in each decade. So I've entered my fourth decade, which is quite shocking. And that's something else which helps to promote the silversmith, of course. And we've just seen the recent exhibition up in Scotland. It's been an absolute fantastic opportunity, the artisan, the art of the silversmith again. I don't know, do I think of myself as an artisan? Not really. I did when I started, because I worked in a garret. That's what I think of it. You know, you don't take holidays and you spend 20 hours a day working for tons. And slowly but surely it comes about. But now I'm very fortunate. I can be here today while my workshop's carrying on working. I'm employed, we're 12 strong. So I was in early this morning sorting everything out, so everything was going to run smoothly because I've been away. And it just gives me this wonderful opportunity to be able to be at symposiums like this and also assist with the company. I'd never have guessed I'd be here. When I started out with my toolkit, I just find it quite incredible that I've been lucky enough to be elevated to the court, so I can have a voice for designer makers. We can help steer the company and work with the trade out there and hopefully make it grow. So it's a two-way thing. I think of it as a family. It's really good fun. And of course, I know almost all of you here, I think, so it's quite a comfortable area to be in. This was a commission I received from Lambeth Palace, from the Archbishop of Canterbury. And again, this is a support from the Goldsmiths company. I was asked in the very early 90s, I think it was 91, there was the Lichfield Commission. And Gerald Benny was asked to produce a huge collection for the Lichfield Cathedral. And he decided it was too much for him, so he very generously put the commission to the company. And I think initially 25 silversmiths, was it, Grant, Leo, around about that, were chosen to do an individual piece each. So I was lucky enough to get the Saints' Day chalice and pattern, and we had a year in which to make it. Literally, it was given to us on February the 14th one year, we delivered February the 14th at the other. And whilst I was dropping off my Saints' Day chalice and pattern, the phone rang in Rosemary's office, and she said, "Oh, chalice, yes, certainly. I know somebody that can make a chalice for you. I have the man right here. He's just delivering one for Lichfield Cathedral." And she just handed the phone to me, and said, "I understand you make chalices." And I said, "Well, yes, but it was my first ever chalice." And he said, "Well, oh, good. In that case, perhaps you could make one for the Archbishop of Canterbury to give to the Pope." And I thought this guy was a hoaxer, and I really didn't believe it. And so, "Who are you?" You know, we're at Lambeth Palace. "Oh yeah, okay, fine. Where's your workshop?" My workshop was in Kennington at the time, so not very far away. And he said, "Perhaps you can come around tomorrow and come and meet me," and so on and so forth. So I can remember walking up to the gates at Lambeth Palace, which are huge, massive doors and so on, standing out there looking, and there's a little door at the side. Well, how do you get in? And then there's this big pull, how you pull the handle down, don't hear anything, and then slowly the door creaks open, and a little head pops out, "Yes," and I said my name, and of course it was true. So again, you know, that's the role that the company can play. So I think I've been very fortunate in some ways, maybe being in the right place at the right time, but it's about you putting yourself in the right place at the right time as well. So, and that's the support that the company can give, and has done for me over the years. So.
Thank you, Richard. And also for showing us some of your amazing pieces.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh, is this the Rolls Royce?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about this. I completely forgot that. This is the helicopter. I did this 2 years ago, and I've been working with Rolls-Royce now for about 15, 16 years, and it all kicked off because we were asked to do a range of cufflinks, or set of cufflinks, for their Indian sales aftermarket. So Serena, she's my wife, and she's a jeweller, great carver. So she carved a little Indian elephant, and we did the RR on the opposite side. And we had 3 weeks to do 24 sets or something like that, so from the wax through to the finished product. So I jumped in the bashed up old MG, drove down to Goodwood, and delivered them. The lady in the bespoke department said, "Oh, thank you, these are wonderful, what else do you do?" Well, at that point, she got this sort of tsunami of, well, I do this, that, and the other, and worked for Lambeth Palace and Rock Formula One and Bulgaries, and was another one of my clients, and still is. And over the years, we've done a lot of bespoke work with Rolls-Royce, fitting out their interiors, making people's fantasies come true. And then 2 years ago, they decided to launch a very special car. It's just a one-off, and it's called Celestial. And it has the constellation of the sky at night on the night the first Phantom came off the production line at Goodwood. And my job was to put 446 diamonds into the car, which is what you can see on the centre panel, the side doors, and the CID or telephone control panel. It was also subject to a Channel 4 documentary, which some of you may have seen, so you'll see me get a good whipping from John, the Scotsman in the bespoke department. Because I used to have to go down with these parts, and if they were a fraction of a millimetre out, he would pick up on it. And of course, it's fly on the wall, so I knew what was going to happen. They knew what was going to happen. And of course, that one's not good. Oh, sorry, Grant, apologies. That one's not good enough. It's a wee bit too high. And so, well, what's going to happen now, Richard? Well, I have to take it out and put it back in. So this whole programme went on. Anyway, it's a fantastic experience. And it went out on this hour-long programme. It was only meant to be a half hour. The car was launched in Dubai. I was lucky enough to be over there because I worked with motor racing, and they just had the Bahrain Grand Prix, so I went out to the launch and was allowed to sit in it et al. Did all the photography. The sheikhs and kings came round and had a look at it. It was then polished up on the stand, flown back to Goodwood. Then they just went over it, and then it was flown out to Singapore. Somebody had bought it, so it was pre-bought from the show, and they were so over the moon with it. The helicopter's taken off, and we're doing some quite remarkable things with Rolls-Royce at the moment. So it's a great opportunity to work with a company that's willing to invest in our kind of skills. And there's a lot more out there like that. And I think that we need many, many more people of our skill level to supply that industry. So, not just the car industry, all sorts of industries.
Well, thanks. That's a very positive note to think other people might be able to get a little piece of this amazingly glamorous and elevated circles you're working in.